I am very grateful to this brave lady who was willing to speak to me in such an open and honest way about her role as an assistant nurse in Australia during COVID-19. I never thought that I would be speaking on friendly terms to anyone who participated in COVID in any way, but I hadn't considered a scenario such as hers, and I think her set of circumstances were perhaps unique and certainly extenuating. Nonetheless, as she says herself, although she now deeply regrets her role in it, she is not looking for forgiveness. Although she worked as an assistant nurse for Australian Government Health Services during the rollout of the so-called COVID-19 vaccines, it is important to note that she did not inject anyone with any of the so-called vaccines. She was, however, required to take the injections herself as a condition of her employment and has suffered from injurious effects since. I would ask you kindly to please listen with an open mind and reserve judgment until you hear her out at least. Please take all things into careful consideration, and I ask you not to comment emotionally. She had nothing to gain from speaking to me, and I believe she is motivated now, as she was then, by a sincere vocation to help others and a genuine desire to do what is right. That's a little introduction from me, right? And I met you in a space, but spaces
Yeah.
on X are just audio. But I got
Mhm.
talking to you about the COVID, and
Mm.
you were very honest, and it pains to point out to me that you weren't a nurse, but you were a nurse's assistant
Yeah. Yeah.
during the COVID thing. But
Yeah.
you know, I kind of thought it was important to say, look, is it okay then to talk to you about this? Are you prepared to talk to me? So that we could
Yeah.
put it on YouTube and about your experiences, because, like, I think, we had a great conversation as well by text.
Hmm.
And, you said, like, the anti vaxxers, so called anti vaxxers, right, would think that people like you or anybody who was part of the medical profession, again, so called, sorry to be doing so much in air quotes kind of thing,
Yeah.
are part of not only people who are culpable, but our polar enemy, And I never
Mhm.
thought that I would talk to somebody who was part of it.
Yeah.
But I have to admire your, and I'm not trying to flatter you here, honesty
Mm.
and bravery in
Yeah.
being willing to speak about this. And
Thank
what you
you.
told me about what afterwards, when your suspicions grew and everything, and
Mm.
how you wrote to Scott Morrison and how you wrote to Dan Andrews, I
Mm.
have to say, wow, like your story is phenomenal. It's important, So
Mm.
that's really why I wanted to talk to you,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
thank you. In case I forget to say it,
Okay.
thanks for talking to me.
No,
Can you tell? Yeah, tell me then. Like, look, you said you were going to maybe explain a bit about your motivations, who you are, like,
yeah.
and could you maybe, like, just only what you're comfortable with? But again, it's just you and me talking right now. Could
Hmm.
you describe a bit about as well, like, everyone was anxious, I suppose, leading up to it or into it. But with that context, you were telling me you suffer from anxiety as well. If you didn't mind explaining a bit about that as part of, like, who you are.
Yeah. So I'll start in 2019. But that's before any of this was like available or like going, viral or anything like that. I didn't know anything about it. I was hospitalized with my schizophrenia. And I come away from that hospitalization and I decided I'd always worked in jobs that were just for the paycheck. I hadn't supported, like, worked with supporting people. So I come away from that hospital admission and I wanted to support people. So in 2020, I decided I'd study a health services certificate, to work in a job where I would be actually supporting my fellow countrymen in a support role, rather than just earning a paycheck, like going to work and coming home, etc. Um, so in the beginning of the year, we were in the class, in the classrooms, in the TAFE, and then we got moved online for the rest of the year because COVID broke out early in Australia in 2020. Then I did my student placement, which is on the job working. My student placement for the course in a hospital, a local hospital, and that was quite the experience because it was on and off whether we were going to be able to do it because of the COVID-19 outbreaks and turning into a pandemic and so forth. But we ended up getting it done. So I got qualified. I got my certificate in December, I think it was. I'll just check. I got it on the 14th of December 2020. So, yeah. And then I applied for a job at a state hospital. It was the first job that I applied for in Victoria, Australia. And I was accepted for like an interview. And due to COVID, this happened, I think, in January. Because it was like Christmas, New Year's time, it didn't happen until the interview until I think it was January, I'm pretty sure, 2021. And it was online like this. There was nobody on the other side. It was all generated by computer, like asking me questions. Yep. And me answering the questions to a computer generated thing. And I passed that. And then, anyway, I got onboarded, and I was March, I started at the state hospital. And it was, I think by then, 2021, it was pretty full on, with COVID-19 pandemic happening. I can't really remember the other questions you asked me now because I've been going on for a
Yeah, no,
minute.
no worries, no worries. And look,
Bit of the
I
background leading up to
yeah,
how I ended up there. And yeah, so I was only in the job 4 weeks before they were talking about mandating the first COVID-19 vaccine. So I'd only been there for 4 weeks. And leading up to going into the hospital, you're mandated for the flu vaccine anyway. And I had to get a series of other vaccines, MMR and diphtheria, all those sort of things like that before I even went in there. So it was almost like, to me, it was, just another vaccine. I'd already had all these ones leading up to going in. So, and that was 4 weeks around, 4 weeks after I started. So,
wow. Yeah, and I can totally see the line of logic there. Well, this is just one more injection.
yeah,
Look, I want to say, like, as well, like, you, of course, right, don't have to share anything you don't want to, but I feel like it might be important to understand as well your trajectory, your journey, and your motivation. And only share what you want to, of course, right? But
yeah.
um,
So my motivation to stay in the job was the fact that I just spent like 12 months studying to get a job like that, and I literally just got the job. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to lose my job. I was feeling very fortunate that I got the job, because you have to declare all your medical history. And I mean, I knew I had mental health disorders. They knew some of my physical ailments and all that sort of stuff, and I was still able to get the position. So, I felt like I'd just come so far, and it was just amazing for me to be able to do that. So I just kept it. Just my motivation to keep going. There wasn't anything sinister behind it.
oh no, not at all. And I totally understand that. But I suppose, like, what it is that, and this is what I meant by saying, why I was saying that you ought not to share whatever you don't feel comfortable. But I kind of suspect that maybe you want to say this, and it shouldn't be a shameful thing at all. or anything that anybody's embarrassed about, because I think it's part of the human condition as well. This idea of schizophrenia or some kind of mental breakdown as part of anxiety, this kind of thing. Could you tell me a bit about that when this happened to you, like prior to then saying, oh, and I guess, and I want to put words in your mouth, that you said, look, I want to do the opposite. I want to not be a patient in a health system. I want to now help other people. But I guess that's how it went. But could you tell us a bit about this anxiety and the schizophrenia?
Yeah, so I've had so in 2008, I was homeless and I developed in the emergency accommodation. I was hospitalized, and I received a diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia, my first schizophrenic diagnosis. And I lived with that for 2 years. And then in 2010, they hospitalized me again and they changed that diagnosis to schizoaffective disorder, which I'm still have that today. I've always had an anxiety disorder throughout that whole time as well, and I also have complex post traumatic stress disorder symptoms as well. So yeah, I've got a few things going on there. So I guess I have like quite a background in that sort of situation. And I just wanted to, after my hospitalisation in 2019, yeah, like I said, I wanted to help people. There was something about that admission, that like that hospital admission, that made me want to support people in a job role instead of just earn a paycheck, and not support anyone. So yeah.
And look, this is I'm very appreciative that you would mention these things, because I think a lot of people will understand that even though they say that I'm pretty sure there's even been ads, but disingenuous ads, I think, like government ads, where they say like, oh, they say things like that there should be no shame about mental health, illness, or this kind of thing. But I see all these things as being part of the human condition. I think every human being looks at other human beings and says, look at them, they're so confident. Their life seems to be easy for them. They never seem to have just things like anxiety in public, or fear about going outside, or just a little bit of pang when they leave the hall door every day when they go to work, like what's the day going to be like. And I do think that there's a tendency for people to pathologize a lot of what are normal, natural parts of the human condition, of the human experience,
Yeah.
and this, again, just totally amateur, but just human observation, that there's then a sort of a self-reinforcing idea that makes us all worse. Where we kind of go, now I've been labeled with something, now I have this disease, and so on and so on. But anyway, this is my take on it. But I do very much appreciate you having been through this, and I think a lot of people who've been through things like this are all the stronger for it. They've been tested and whatnot, and I absolutely have huge sympathy. Then that somebody might decide that, okay, I'm going to, part of maybe making myself better is to be less concerned about my own conditions and more concerned about others. So,
Yeah.
the tragedy and the coincidence then of you saying, oh, just in time now, like where they say, we're not sure if we can qualify you, maybe we can finish this course where you get the certificate to be a nurse's assistant. And you're kind of like thrown into this baptism of fire where, right, now you get to be part of this convict operation.
Yeah, it was like a baptism of fire. Yeah, it was quite incredible. There was, yeah, of course, there was like COVID, like through the hospital. There was a COVID ward and stuff like that. The ICU, intensive care unit, which is the most intense ward, where the people are most unwell. There was, yeah, airlocked rooms with patients in them and stuff. But I also, that was for, not sure exactly the time frame, but it wasn't too long after I started on the wards, that the the COVID clinics were needing support from staff, and I put my hand up. I said, "Yeah, I'll come and I'll come and work there or whatever." Um, so I headed down there, and I was just I think basically directing people where to go through the clinic. Where you register for your vaccine in the beginning, and then into the vaccine area and stuff like that, and I was doing reception out the front, where they first sign in. I was sort of a little bit of everything in the beginning, and somehow then I got onto the testing side as well. I got become part of that, and out the back. There was like the cars would come through. There'd be lots of cars in the line, and we would have an iPad, and we would take down their details for the test. Of course, so we knew who they were, whatever, and so that they could put the test with the person, stuff like that. And then somehow I ended up on the rapid response testing team, which is where we were deployed to all the local towns in Victoria where the outbreaks were. So that was travelling away from home, sometimes just for the day, sometimes for days, sometimes for a week, depending on how severe, the outbreaks were and how many people were affected. And it was a huge thing. It was really big here, like for me anyway. I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for anyone else, I can only speak for
Yeah.
myself.
Well, look, I know it was big everywhere. This is the thing. It was simultaneous everywhere. And as I mentioned to you, I was in South Africa at the time, and I was looking to see what it was like in Europe, what it was like in America, and of course, you get CNN everywhere now. Like, that's the thing. And I think a lot of Americans might not realize this, that the 24-hour news channels weren't just duplicated in places like Australia and in the UK and in Europe and everything else. But after a while, we just began to get the same simulcast news, that it was global news just exactly at the same time. And then, of course, we had the lockstep where the whole world, all the governments couldn't ever decide on anything together. And there was always this red tape. But immediately they could all get into this lockstep, the simultaneous lockdowns and same rapid response to this deadly disease.
Yeah.
And there were so many... Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
On our Facebook, there was a time during COVID on our Facebook that we weren't seeing anything other than from America and Australia. Like nothing, we didn't know what was going on outside of America and Australia. I just remember noticing that. I don't know whether it was really happening, but that's something that I noticed.
That is interesting. Right. And I can't quite remember what I was seeing in Europe, but I remember I was seeing things that were at least stated to have been coming from Italy, like Lombardy, that northern... I think we did talk about this, Lombardy in northern Italy. They were showing us scenes from hospitals, and some people were saying, wait a minute, those are dummies, like as mannequins, like in the hospital wards in beds. And then later on, they were showing us the same thing on different countries, maybe in America, showing the same scenes, claiming, oh, this is in Baltimore or this is in Philadelphia or whatever. People are saying, well, look, I mean, it can't be, but we all know subsequently that
or dummies here, they were real people.
Oh yes, but I mean, what I'm saying is that what they show on TV, on the mainstream TV, isn't necessarily what might be happening in real life. And as what you have seen, and I will ask you, of course, like what you saw, and you can back up what you saw. But what I'm saying is that later on, just in case you're not aware of this, whether it was filmed in a hospital in Italy or whether it was filmed in an American hospital, later on, when people said those are definitely mannequins, when they sort of slowed things down and had a look at it. At first they denied that they were mannequins, and then they said, oh, well, of course they were mannequins. You don't think that we'd be able to show real people? That would be a violation of their HIPAA privacy.
Yeah.
So there was these kind of very disingenuous reportings going on, but it's just one of many examples
Mm.
that became were at first conspiracy theories, and then
Conspiracy,
yeah,
but then
conspiracy theories, and then became conspiracy fact. The people were in fact conspiring to fool
yeah,
us, or not to
yeah,
be fully truthful, open, and honest with us. But in any case, we know that, all right. But
yeah, we
that's not to say that what you saw there weren't real people who were queuing up in a panic to say, "Please,
they
can I
were,
get vaccinated?"
yeah, they were real people. Definitely not mannequins. The the government had caused hysteria about the AstraZeneca vaccine early on. In April 2021, they changed the age to no more people under 50 years old, which sort of, started everyone because of the thrombosis. I think that's how you pronounce it, like blood clot situation.
Sure, sure. Well,
Which
just to back up 1 second there, I mean, and maybe I was, glossing over that you were seeing people who were genuinely sick, or that they
in
were.
the
Did
hospital,
you see? Did you
in
see
the
people? You
car.
were in the hospital and you saw a lot of people there, yeah.
Yeah, I did. They were genuinely unwell. The people in the cars, like having cold-like symptoms, genuinely, not well. But most of them, I mean, I couldn't tell. Like, I was just so there was just hundreds of people waiting in cars when it would come to the testing. You just,
Hmm.
you just like you got your whatever hat on and you're just doing your job. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. And look,
wasn't
I
there
just didn't want
to,
to sort of jump ahead too quickly because,
yeah,
look, seeing as you mentioned it, right, the AstraZeneca, because we kind of like went from 2020 to when they told us there was this deadly disease straight into 2021 when you were never, and maybe in case, whether we said this or not, to make it clear, you yourself, because you only became certified to be a nurse's assistant, you never injected anybody with anything. What you
no,
did was take down people's details. Did you
yeah.
take their car registration number and things like this?
Don't know. I can't remember taking the car registration number. No, no.
But you would take their name and address and date of birth, things like that?
Yeah, just main details, like so they can get results and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. So
um,
we knew that we were waiting, supposedly waiting, right? Although I don't know what you believe, but I can tell you now, like at that time in 2020, I was saying, oh, listen, I know for sure whatever vaccine they're going to pretend to give us or have discovered or have created in response to this that was already created, I don't know how many years ago.
yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe you agree with me.
I wasn't like
Yeah.
I totally
Maybe you
oblivious
agree with me
of
now
that.
that they created the crisis so as to bring in their already made solution, so to speak.
Yeah,
Would
see,
you?
I didn't know any of this until after,
Yeah.
so like, I didn't know
Oh,
any of
sure,
this.
but now are you up to speed on that, or do you agree with
Yeah,
that?
I've seen a lot of it
Yeah,
circulating. I've seen a
yeah.
lot of
Knowing what I know about our government and the people who run the world, this is what it's their modus operandi. But look, I'll park that there for the moment because I just wanted to sort of maybe tell this in order,
Mhm.
so that in 2020, you were qualified or
No,
certified to be a nurse's
21.
assistant, was it?
21.
Oh, only
But
in 2021. Yeah.
yeah, because I was studying in 2020.
You studied in 2020 while the crisis, so called, was
Yes,
occurring. Yeah.
I was studying online like this on a online Zoom.
Right. And look, it broke my heart earlier when you were saying that all of this was all computer, no human face, all impersonal, anti
That's
human.
what the
Yeah.
interview was, yes, to get
Even
the
the
job.
interview, yeah. Even the
Yep.
interview. Like, it's one thing to have computer assisted learning or studying, but for an interview to be entirely conducted by a computer, a faceless
Mhm.
computer, again, to me, that exemplifies this anti human, um, not just sentiment, but overarching change in the way that I perceive humanity to have become. You know.
Yeah, I think that was the reason for it was because of the COVID, like, because they didn't want to do personal interviews because of COVID, so they used the digital thing. Yeah, I don't know
Sure,
how to
but they,
explain
like you and I now, we can see each other as we're talking.
it.
They could have had a human at the other end of the video camera. If the
That was
and
one
they,
part of it. So yeah,
yeah,
um, some of it's a bit of a blur because it has been a long time since then.
mm,
Um, and a lot has, gone under the
So,
bridge
and
since.
again, and it's just because I kind of want to be clear, and I know you mentioned AstraZeneca, and we'll get back to that, and I just didn't want to kind of jump the gun and skip over what
Yeah.
I think might be an important part of the story here. So that it seems to me that 2020, during 2020, then, you were at home, you were studying online, and you would not have been able to see people coming into hospitals at that stage.
Not until I did my student placement later in the year in 2020 up at the local hospital here.
Okay, so it was in 2020, was it late 2020?
Yeah, late 2020 when I did my student placement in the hospital.
November, December, that kind of time? Or do you remember what
I
month?
think it was like November, could have been October, November.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I don't know for sure the dates. I'd have to look at my
No,
paperwork.
that's all right because then I mean, you might have been in hospital then to be able to tell us like whether, and I say us like for the benefit of anybody who might be listening later. Did you see how packed the hospitals were and how many people were coming in?
Not the one that I was at. Very small town, very small hospital. I didn't see anything rather out of the, because I think if anything they would have been transported to the state hospital,
Okay,
up
yeah.
up the highway. They
Well,
probably
again,
wouldn't
I'm
have.
very glad to have that as a fact kind of there because it's not about like, and I'm not, I don't expect you to see what's in all the other hospitals, but just from your personal experience, because this is your story, what you in fact saw and didn't see, you know what I mean? And just
Yeah,
because I guess you know as well, like that by this stage and at that time, so many people were seeing not just the dancing nurses, but the videos of intrepid sort of personal, or what do they call them, private reporters, not private investigators, but just citizen journalists. I think that was the phrase a lot of them used. Would go into these hospitals and see that the administration room, or sorry, not the admission room, was completely empty, and there was only administrators, no patients at all, like a ghost town in so many people's hospitals. Of course, maybe there were some hospitals where people presented, and I would not be surprised if people believed that there was a virus out there. The sort of psychosomatic placebo effect can take over. People are hypochondriacs. They can turn up at the hospital. I'd be very shocked if it was empty anyway. You know what I mean? But that's what we were hearing a lot. And so you just would have been at that time leading up to, say, October, November of 2020, whatever you were seeing in your personal feed, and again, we're not all seeing the same things, would have been what you might have assumed was the experience.
yeah, it was. Yeah, it didn't seem like besides all of the PPE and the temperature checks and stuff like that. The little hospital here. No, there wasn't really a hell of a lot that I can remember that went on there that sort of like spiked my, you
Mm.
know, what's going on here sort of
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, and this is the thing. You were studying to become somebody who would be part of the health service. So were you paying too much attention to everything else, or were you like to the COVID stuff in the background, or were you just focusing on your studies?
I was just focusing on getting through my course because it's the first time since like it was 2020 and I hadn't been like in school since 1993. So I hadn't done any, like proper like study or anything since, for a very long time. So I was like concentrating. I really wanted to get through this course, like, and it was a really big achievement for me, especially after my history of mental health and stuff like that. It was a really big achievement for me to even do that certificate three. So
Totally. And look, I said it already, but I think it's definitely worth repeating. Like, I absolutely can understand. So many people, I think, can understand this story arc of somebody who might say, like, I felt, that I was mentally unwell or I was weak in some way, nothing even to do with mental health or physical health, like that I was weak in some way. And then the weak person goes through a development, they say, and like you described there, been so long since you did any study. Imagine somebody maybe say, so long since I was fit, and they get fit again, and then they become, muscular and strong and can then rescue others.
mhm.
And so I totally understand that story arc and the motivation or the drive then to say, "Ah, I'm not going to be a burden on the health system. I'm going to be a net positive."
Exactly. I wanted to be part of it, and I wanted to support other people because I felt like I had enough experience to support others by that stage. So yeah, so that was up until the end of 2020, and then started 2021. So
Well, so did you, or when did you start working then, or when did they call you into work?
Yep. So the first was like the very beginning of March 2021.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, but was the vaccine available, so-called vaccine available to everyone by March
It would
2021?
have been available. However, we weren't sort of told we had to get it as soon as I got there, but then it come into effect very soon after. So I think they gave towards the end of the year for you to like actually have it, but I got it straight away because, as I said, I just had all the other vaccines to even be able to go onto the ward. So it was just like another thing. And I thought I was doing the right thing. I was convinced the government was, looking after our best interests. I believed them. I totally, I was like, this, I'm doing the right thing here. This is going to protect me. It's going to protect my community, the people I work with, etc. So, that was just it. Yeah.
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 Yeah, this is it. I totally believed I was doing the right thing. And this is why, I mean, I can definitely, you know, understand the motivation. This
Yeah.
is it. Like, that somebody might end up doing the wrong thing, but if
Yeah.
they were motivated by the best of intentions, like, I have to have a lot of sympathy for that.
Mm.
And, you and I both talked about our, is anger even enough of a word to cover it with people who are supposed to be our leaders? Like people like
Uh,
Scott Morrison in Australia, the Prime Minister of Australia, and then Dan Andrews, who was very famous worldwide for being
yeah.
a very obvious, I'm trying not to curse here, but very obvious bad actor, let's say, right? The premier, so called, of the state of Victoria, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I showed you um, the letter I sent both of them, didn't I?
Yeah,
One,
you
yeah,
did. Yeah, yeah.
I wrote before I started working in the industry. I wrote to Scott Morrison sometime in 2020 because I felt that Dan Andrews was committing like domestic violence against the state of Victoria, which is actually against our constitution. And so I wrote to Scott Morrison and I said, this is wrong. He's like, brainwashing us with numbers every day, all day long, on the media. And I got a reply, like I think I showed you, um, standard sort of reply from Scott Morrison himself. So, and then later, I think it was in 2022, after I'd been working, as they called it, on the front line for about 10 or 11 months. I wrote to Dan Andrews because I was just beside myself about the mandates with the vaccines. I was beside myself about being on the front line doing what we were doing. It was really difficult. Um, you know, um,
Well, Seb,
yeah,
yeah, you were very. I really appreciated that you sent me a copy of those letters, and yeah, I just looked at them here, and just for the record, you sent a letter to Scott Morrison in September of 2020, and then to Dan Andrews in January of 2022, late January of 2022. Scott Morrison, as you said, did answer you, but Dan Andrews didn't.
no
Um,
reply from him.
yeah. Now, look, I get again. I kind of, I'm in two minds. I don't want to cut you off, but at the same time, don't want to skip ahead too much either. You know what I mean? And maybe, maybe later we could splice in if you're feeling that it would be something that you'd be willing to do. You could read these letters, and we could put them into this. I might be able to splice them in later, or if not, certainly at the end of our discussion here. But yeah, but by September of 2020, you were already feeling that whether, like, regardless of the truth of all this,
Hmm.
regardless of the rights or the wrongs, that these people in leadership positions, Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister of the whole of Australia, um, you felt that he was not doing what he should be doing or not leading properly.
Um, I think he was in a really tough position. To be honest, um, I think he was in a really he was there in a really bad time, and he did whatever he was doing. He did whatever he was told to do, etc. Um, I think, but to say to me that he couldn't step in federally because of the Commonwealth laws and tell the states how to run their, business. I sort of thought that was something like, why do we have a federal government if they can't control the states? I think that was
Yes, that was a
you know
key thing in your letter. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So, but as for Dan Andrews, yeah, he didn't reply to that letter that I wrote. A few letters to him went unanswered. Yeah, so, but I certainly tried to make the effort to voice how I was feeling about what was going on during COVID by writing to the government.
yeah, yeah. And can I say to you as well? I think we did talk about this before. We started recording this, that you sort of wanted to prove to me in a way that what you were saying was all true, and this is part, I guess part of why you sent me these letters. I kind of thought, look, this is really important, your whole story, and it's important for the factual record. I see this as, look, I don't see that we're ever going to get justice for all of this. I think it would be too late, even if all of our governments were today replaced with people who had the best interests of us, the people, at their heart, and they valued and desired justice. They yearned for justice as much as you and I do, and a lot of other people, I think everybody who's listening do.
Yeah.
I don't think there would be time to have swift trials even and bring these people to justice. And I don't think any justice would be good enough. I don't, because if you spill milk, they say don't cry over spilt milk, but if it soaks into the carpet, you never get the smell out. I think there's a lot of things can't be undone. So we are where we are. Without a time machine, the damage these people have done by their actions and inactions, no justice will ever fix any of that. So, for religious people, myself, I don't know whether the God exists or not. If he does, maybe heaven and hell exist. We can only but hope that there's a hell waiting for these people who were in positions of authority and didn't at the very least resign and say, I'm not, I'm not capable of being a leader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Look,
But look, yeah,
I wouldn't have wanted to have been in their shoes myself. I even said that in some of my letters, but I bet that they had these people, these leaders, like had all the data, all the information, all the statistics from other pandemics and stuff like that, all the experts advising them, and they made it look like they were scrambling for how to deal with this. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that, there was just too much going on. Like, it was very, there was so much information out there. And in the clinics themselves, like the thing that like hurts me the most is how frightened my countrymen were. That bothers me still.
well, can I read a bit from your letter here? You say, you said in September of 2020 to Prime Minister Scott Morrison, you said, we're confined to our homes. We're flooded with numbers every single day. We're flooded with bad news about being in lockdown every single day. Numbers, 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 and more numbers for months and months on end. How much of this do you think people can take? This type of media mind control is psychological abuse of the Australian people. Well, we got it all over the world. How can you let this happen to us? Why are you letting the media and your government abuse us? So even in September of 2020, you could see that the government was not just scrambling to figure out how best to deal with this, that they were very apparently taking delight in psychologically abusing people.
I could see it. I could see it then. I wrote about it. Like, I showed you the proof. You know, I could see that whatever it was that I could see, I I spoke up about it. Like, I tried to get the government's attention by writing to Scott Morrison, um, saying, in Victoria, it's really bad. Like, it's really bad here, living here under this, this Dan Andrews ruling with an iron fist type thing. Um, it it was, I could definitely see what was going on, at the time, in the mind control with all the numbers and everything like that. But I still just kept studying, just kept going. So
Right. So, because the thing is, I guess, you just figured, look, I've made a decision. I want to get out there, finish what I'm doing here, and help people and help fix this, I suppose, is it?
just help, just support people. I thought I was doing the right thing. And that's
And
the
look,
truth.
again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm guessing that you might have thought, okay, like a lot of people maybe even still think politicians are bad, but the whole system isn't bad, or a lot of doctors and nurses might not be good people, but the system is good. Did you still believe in the system at that stage? Or again, maybe that's just, I don't want to again put words in your mouth, but you, I guess I could understand if you just wanted to finish what you'd started with the studying.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't doing it. I didn't want to get to the end of it and not do anything with it. Like, I wanted to follow through and do something with what I'd just got through in the last 12 months. So, and it just so happened that I got the position I got, and things just went from there. So,
When you started then and you were brought into, were you brought into this small local hospital first of all?
no, that was the where I did my student placement. I was brought into the state hospital when I started.
Okay. And when you started, were there other new recruits, so to speak, like you there as nurses assistants or anything else?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's always, like, new staff, um, coming in and out all the time, and there's nurses in training and always coming in and out all the time
So it
doing
was
their.
a constant cycle. I was wondering whether there might have been any evidence to suggest that there might have been prior knowledge so that the government brought a lot of people through the system in advance to arrive where you did at that time.
I don't know. I didn't think about that. Um, but no,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I
always hard
remember.
to say because your experience was your own. You can't compare it to, whether there was anything different about your new class of 2019, 2020, I
Yeah,
suppose.
I know. I know. No, I couldn't. And as I said, like, some of it is a bit, like, blurry. The back in the beginning, because just so much happened. I can remember specific stuff about what I can remember, but I just can't remember everything because it was a really big
Well, no
time.
worries, but roughly when did you do your placement then in the small hospital?
That would have been October, November 2020.
And then you were brought into the larger regional hospital then
In
roughly when? Oh,
March
March of 2021. Okay.
2021. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you said earlier that they were going to give it to the end before sort of saying now you have to take the vaccine for the COVID. But
Yeah.
the end of what was that?
I think it was like they're giving it, I think, for the mandate. I looked it up. I think they were giving until October 21, but I got it, like, within, like, straight away, because it was just like, okay, I'll just get it. Like, I've just got a series of vaccines to come here anyway.
So
So,
you figured you're going to have to get it eventually. You might as well get it over with.
yeah. Yeah.
And look, maybe, before letting this go on too long as well, because you did mention already, and I already kind of stopped you. So, lots of different regions of the world might have had minor variations and things, but was it the AstraZeneca vaccine that was offered to you then in March of 2021?
Yep, that was the only one available to me at the time. I wasn't eligible to get the Pfizer, for some reason. I can't tell you what that reason is, but the one that was available to me was the AstraZeneca as a healthcare worker. So,
Okay.
yeah,
And, you said to me already offline that then having just taken it, being an early adopter, having just been injected with this, whatever it was, branded AstraZeneca,
yeah.
you heard something on the radio then, did you? Or how did you hear?
Yeah, so what happened was I got it at about 8 or 8:30 in the morning on the 8th of April 21. and then I went to work for an afternoon shift, knocked off at 10 p.m., got in my car, turned on the radio, and I could hear them either, I don't know whether Scott Morrison was live at that time or whether it was replaying what he'd already said earlier that day. But he just said, look, there'll be no more AstraZeneca for under 50s, under 50-year-olds. And I was just like, what the hell? I just got that this morning, and I'm 40. I think I would have been 43, around 43 years old. And I thought, oh my goodness, like, what does this mean? And that's when then after that, I feel the sort of the hysteria around AstraZeneca started happening because of the thrombosis, or however you pronounce that word, they called it, the blood clot
I think
situation.
you're saying it just right, yeah.
Yeah. And that started circulating. So in between, and I had to wait 12 weeks, and they said, if you've already had an AstraZeneca, it's okay. It's safe to get another one. But this is what they were saying straight away. Like, don't, if you're no more under 50 years old for AstraZeneca, but if you've had the first dose, it's safe for you to get the second.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's like saying, here, listen, don't eat this because it's poisonous. But if you have eaten it, just eat some more and it's fine. Yeah.
And like, I'm just like, I was at the time, I wasn't laughing about it. I was, quite concerned. I
Oh,
thought,
I can imagine. And look, we're laughing now, right? And I think as
yeah,
well, the thing is, we often laugh as human beings at inappropriate things. We're
yes,
often terrified. And look, I hate to say it, but one of, I think it's a common sort of comedy trope now, like that in our mind's eye, we would be so socially ostracized. It would be such an inappropriate thing to do, to laugh at a funeral, that it's almost funny, that concept, you
yeah,
know? And so this is, I think, how the human mind, the psyche, is able to cope with such ridiculous contradictions.
yeah.
Like that the government is so evil that it would say, here, listen, don't take this. We don't want to panic you, but it's probably not a good thing if you've been injected with it. And you're like, well, thanks very much. You could have told me earlier,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I don't know. Like, it was just like, and then I had to, like, leading up to my second one, I seriously, like, 12 weeks later, I thought, this thing could kill me. Like, and now, like, there was so much more information, like, on the AstraZeneca by the time 12 weeks was up, that I thought, I was so scared, like, to have the second one. But I think also by that stage, I was eligible to have the Pfizer. By that stage, I think, but I can't be sure. And I, like, declined because something, like, my gut instinct told me to not mix. And so I stayed with, and I had the second AstraZeneca. I don't know what date that was. I can't remember. I'd have to pull up the thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You gave me this sort of vaccine certification with the dates on it, I think. But with regard to being told, hey, this isn't good for you, there may be a problem with it, whatever way that they messaged it, and they said, so it's not safe for under 50s. Like, yeah, and again, the logic there is like, well, if it's not safe for somebody under 50, why would it be safe for somebody over 50? Unless they said, oh no, see, we only meant to poison the over 50s because we don't want to have to look after them at their old age, whatever. But look, the thing is, there's no logic to all the different edicts and informational missives from the government, but I can totally see your line of logic, right? Without being a scientist, a chemist, a pharmacist, a doctor, any of these things, right? They don't seem to have any common sense, but there's total common sense in saying, well, look, if they're telling me this whiskey is poisoned, but they're saying it's okay to have vodka, look, maybe I'll just stay with whiskey and not introduce another variable like vodka into this thing, if I'm making a concoction here, just to use an analogy.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I just, I'll just quickly say I ended up having three of them. So I had three because we were mandated for three. They were speaking about mandating us for a fourth. I can't remember what year that was, 22, late 22 or something. But I definitely got the three. The third one, I thought, fuck this. If it's going to, sorry, if it's going to kill me,
You're all right.
sorry about that. If it's going to
No,
kill me,
you're fine. You're fine. And look,
it'll,
that is, I totally get it, right? To say fuck this,
sorry.
in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah.
right? There's that attitude. You know, the die has been cast, I think, is a phrase they're going to use a lot more now. It's the same as crossing the Rubicon, these Roman phrases, right? Or the economic terms, the sunk cost fallacy, where you've invested so much in something, and there's no going back anyway. You can't undo something, might as well press on. I suppose there's that fatalistic attitude as well, even though when you said, and I just want to clarify this to be sure, when you said after the first one, when you heard the radio report, you said, oh, this thing could kill me. You were talking about the vaccine, not the
Yeah.
supposed disease. Yeah.
No, not the disease. I thought, like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Like, could this vaccine harm me? And they've just told me no more, like, for my age bracket. And yeah, so I was on a bit of a roller coaster for the 12 weeks. But it's okay to take the second one if you've had the first one. So it was
And
really
again,
odd.
it's not a laughing matter, but I'm laughing at this blasé contradictions that
Yeah.
the government and their press office feel they can get away with without any explanation either. No details into why what they've just said makes any sense.
Yeah. I know, and obviously, clearly, I was brainwashed. I didn't like question it. I didn't. I said, "Oh, okay, it's safe for me to get the second one." So I went ahead with that, and then when it come time for the third um, supposed mandate, I thought, "Oh, look, I'll just go and get it. If it kills me, it kills me." And
Yeah.
just and then by that stage, one of the doctors, the GPs that I seen, said, we have this information that if you get past 28 days and haven't got a blood clot, you'll be okay.
Oh, thank you very much again. Like again,
So,
this blasé, casual, nonchalant attitude, the such carelessness they have with people's lives, while at the same time another contradiction is all of these people are such prime virtue signalers where they say, look, we cherish every human life, and everything they do, they claim it's all based on the utmost care to their patients, including their privacy and all this other stuff. It makes me sick to the back teeth, and this is why I want justice for all these people, because I feel that in your case, you had the best of intentions, and as you just said there, you trusted. It's a way of saying like brainwashing, like that you trusted the government. Everyone's born into this life being naive in that way, and it takes a while for the scales to fall from the eyes. I was naive for so much of my life. I thought government were the good guys. I thought the Western world were the good guys.
yeah.
I thought I was being brought up by my parents, by my teachers, with the discipline and education, so that I could be inducted into an adult society that was waiting for me, where we all valued our honour, and we never lied to each other because that would besmirch our honour, and that was our most precious thing. So it's been a very, very bitter awakening to the realities of the world for me.
Yeah,
So I have a lot of sympathy for somebody who had the best of intentions,
I did.
but there are others who didn't, and that's
No, I know. I know. There probably definitely were people that didn't have really good intentions. And maybe they knew more than we did. I don't know. Like I felt, maybe I was really dumb at the time. I thought, I don't know, but to come away, like to have my reflection of that time in history and my role in that, and the harm and um, the distress that it caused everybody, and to see people walking around in masks now, driving their cars in masks now. There's not even a pandemic. They're still doing it. Frightened people like so badly that they're still wearing masks in their cars and on push bikes and in the supermarkets and stuff like that. They're still, they're so frightened of, that it was just such, yeah.
and look, and just for the record, this is, as we speak, May 2026. That maybe some people never let go of the fear of COVID, but also right now, we'll see if they're able to pull it off. They're trying to tell us that, there's this new thing that is not bat-borne, but rat-borne, and it's the hantavirus. And also, people are showing already that the hantavirus was listed as being a side effect of getting the COVID vaccine.
Okay.
And also, I've seen, by the way, in case you hadn't heard this, have you seen this, that Hanta is Hebrew for something like nonsense or bullshit.
No, I didn't know that. What I did see was an ABC article about that new virus. How do you say it? Hunter.
Maybe it's hantavirus, not hantavirus, but I might be saying it wrong, yeah.
I seen an ABC article, an Australian ABC article on it the other day, and right down the bottom of the article, there was the expert from the United States in that particular virus saying, "We're going to learn a lot about this," and I'm thinking that's evil. And so I highlighted and copied her name, put it into Google. Now she got funding of 2.5 million or something in 2021 to research that virus. So why is she saying in 2026, oh, we're going to learn so much more about, like,
Wow.
so I'm really skeptical now. As soon as I see something, um, I get my little tin hat on and I go searching, and I've got like 10 tabs open, and because you can't trust Google, like, because every link you go to has different information or a different story, or nothing adds up. Like Google.
Well done.
Yeah.
I really appreciate what you did there. And that's vital information as well. And it's very clear to me, and I think it's clear to you now, that these people are so evil, and they plan their evil so much in advance. It's malice aforethought, that the flow of the mind, the mens rea, is there, and which is what you need to establish for, I believe, a crime to have occurred, that the person intended to do what they're doing, to cause harm. And I think what's so difficult still for so many of us to believe, and the mind, the psychological sort of mechanism of the mind to protect itself, is to eventually cloud over this realization, because it's so terrible,
Yeah.
that these people have been planning not just to kill us, but to make us sick and injured and miserable, and torture us.
Yes. Remind me to show you a post I did about crimes against humanity committed in Australia. I'll send you it after this. And I actually sent it, a part of it, because I couldn't fit all of it in the report, like to the Australian Federal Police. And I put every government in Australia down for crimes against humanity. So,
Oh, well done. Yeah.
I just had a gut full of these people that.
Well, do you remember what's this woman's name who was paid already in 2021?
Her name is Angela Lewis, so Luis. She's from the University of Montana. Well, since 2021, she's supposed to have been researching that virus. And so why in 2026 would she have written in an article like, we're going to learn so much about this virus that's just broken out? And I'm thinking, what a strange thing to say, we're going to learn so much about this virus. I thought, what do you mean we're going to learn so much about this?
Sure.
Yeah, I just thought it was a bizarre thing to say, like, we're going to learn so much about this now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And these people, I think, telegraph their machinations as well. Like, they're practically rubbing their hands and going, wah ha 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 ha. Pretty much salivating at the next new evil they're going to visit on the general population. The evil is so overarching, the timescales are so long, their patience is so inhuman almost, that they bide their time softly, softly, as they get all the herd to climb into their trap, sort of thing. But these people delight in our suffering. And it's very, very hard for us to believe that they could be so orchestrated, it could be at such a big scale, and that their evil could be so big as well. That's the big lie. It's so hard for us to wrap our minds around something that could be so big like this, a lie that could be so big.
It's really hard to believe that such evil could exist in people. I don't know where to start with that one.
Well, can I just then, to get you back on track with your story, like at around this time when you had joined the larger hospital, some friends of yours were sending you videos and saying, look at this, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few months in, they knew, where I was working and stuff like that, because I was posting about it on my Facebook. And they're messaging me in Messenger, and they were saying horrible things to me and showing, videos. of people that, and I thought it was all, they were all conspiracy theory stuff. And I was just like, oh, I'm not going to worry about watching this whole video. And like, so anyway, those friends, some of those friends I don't even talk to anymore. Like they totally blocked and, cut off from them. So did lose friends over, my job and stuff like that. They thought, I was horrible for being part of the whole project, or whatever you want to bloody call the whole thing.
You were part of this
Yeah,
system. You were part of this system that was doing this thing to human beings, to humanity at large. And yeah, this is where I think we're kind of getting to the crux, I think, of your story, or the turning point of your story. That at some point you were the kind of person who, I'll admit, I couldn't understand why they'd be wanted part of this, and why they wouldn't be able to see all the contradictions. Like some of them we've mentioned already.
yeah,
Like, hey, this is safe. But wait a minute, in the same day, it isn't safe. We just learned today after we've injected you with it. But it's fine if you've taken it already. You can keep taking
yeah,
it. And it's safe if you're over 50, because you would think, hey, if anybody's going to be safe to take it, you would think it would be younger, fitter, healthier people. But whatever. And so there was 1,001 contradictions. These people would have felt like, look, they're trying to stop you from not only making a mistake personally or whatever, but they feel like, look, if we could reach any number of healthcare workers, they could then inform the other healthcare workers, sound the alarm. But something made you, and maybe if we could expand this a little bit, because maybe that's all that needs to be said, but I'm still struggling to understand, maybe you are too, why it would be that you'd say, anything my friends are sending me is a conspiracy theory, therefore I won't watch
yeah.
it, and I just press on and ignore
Yeah,
it.
because I thought they were caught up in, the conspiracy theories, and I thought, I know what I'm doing, and I know that my intentions are good. Um, I'm helping people, I'm supporting my community, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, and they're telling me I'm not, and so it just didn't add up, to me. And so I just kept going. And so what was going on up here when they told me, don't, you shouldn't have, if you're under 50, don't have that vaccine again. But if you've had it, it's okay to have it. Like, what went on in my brain, I can't explain. That I didn't then just go, alarm bells didn't start ringing, to me saying, oh, what's really going on? I don't know what happened in my brain, but I just kept going. Like, I kept working there. I kept getting the vaccines. As I told you, I had 3 of them. Um, and yeah, I just don't know what went on up here in my brain to like keep pushing on. And I just kept pushing on no matter what I seen. Like, and I witnessed my countrymen so frightened of these vaccines, so frightened of the COVID virus as well. The people were angry, people were frightened, people were like skeptical and saying all sorts of things to me when they were coming through the vaccine, coming into the vaccine clinic. And it's all public; everyone else heard it as well. So, as the things they said were, and it still didn't register. Like, people like, which one did you have? Because you look okay. I'll get the same one as you. That's freaking heartbreaking. And, if, are we going to come out the other side? Are we going to be, alive when we come out the other side? We're lambs to the slaughter. All of these things were said in, with all the people waiting. So it was like, and I don't know what was going on, but nothing sort of like made me go, hang on a minute, like right there and then, nothing sort of made me go, hang on a minute, what is really going on here? Like, I just kept doing my job. I don't understand. I can't explain to you exactly.
Yeah, look, you explained it as best I think it can be explained, and the panic, the brainwashing, and feeling like you best just ignore any other distractions and get out there and start saving lives. You thought you were going to be a hero
well, not necessarily a hero, but like I thought I did think I was helping save lives. I mean, people still had regular like illnesses, people with broken legs, cancer. There were still all regular illnesses that you would treat in a hospital. So, like, I was part of a team that supported people, in saving lives. So all of that normal business of illnesses was still going on. It didn't stop just because of COVID. So people were still dying and stuff from natural, like cancers and accidents and, all these sort of things in the hospital, and whatever type of illnesses and things like that. These all were still all going on, and COVID on top. So like it wasn't just like 100% COVID. Like I was on the wards as well. Like there was regular illnesses, regular, hospital people that we had to treat and save lives and all this sort of stuff. Like, none of that stopped just because of COVID. I mean, there was still, yeah, life threatening situations and things like that that we had to deal with. So,
Well, yeah, I understand, and sorry for characterizing it in a way that's not exactly right. But yeah, you wanted to help people, and you were still part of saving lives.
yeah,
And on that, just I suppose again, important for the record because this was something that I do believe from seeing it said everywhere and seeing that there was definitely evidence that there was perverse financial incentives to characterize any death as being something that was caused by COVID, or that's the famous phrase was, it was very odd. They'd say, oh, people died not from COVID, but with COVID as a comorbidity. And you could see they were being definitely disingenuous. And I believe that it is true, but maybe you can corroborate this, that hospital administrators and staff were incentivized to record people's deaths if they would have died, as you said, from other things like cancer, but as with COVID. Did you see any of that?
no, I didn't. I can't say that I did. I wasn't part of that area. I don't, yeah, I didn't have access to anything like that, like, or any,
Right.
no, none of that knowledge, none of that knowledge.
And you heard no talk of this. I can understand if
No,
you wouldn't have seen it or not seen it, but you heard no talk of it,
no,
or you didn't feel that you were pressurized to characterize things as
no,
COVID.
no.
Okay. Well, that's interesting, and I'll take that as true and an honest account, and important for the record as well. And again, I think in a lot of sense, then that absolves you from a different kind of a conspiracy, a conspiracy where people collude to lie about what people are really dying from. So you weren't part of that, and I think that's for you. Because you were saying to me before we started recording this that you're like all of this, your participation, no matter what your intentions, still weighs heavily on you in all of this,
Yeah,
doesn't
it
it?
does. Yeah. It does, and especially when like you get online. I mean, over the years, I've been online, and like they're, you have the anti-vaxxers, like, wishing you were dead already and telling you that you're going to die anyway from the vaccine, and just saying all these horrible things, basically, because like I should be in prison because played this role in, the COVID-19 and stuff like that, that I should go to prison and stuff like that. And like there's, it's a big weight to carry, along with, what I've already told you. I have to live with that stuff. So, yeah.
Well, look, I genuinely admire this, and I'll tell you why. I'm not trying to flatter you, because from somebody who is brave enough to say, on camera now, but on audio
Yeah.
anyway, that
Yeah.
that you suffered from anxiety, and even I think something that a lot of people would consider more socially not acceptable in some way, as to say that you had some kind of schizophrenia, whatever exactly then the further terms were.
Yeah.
A lot of people would sort of say, oh, like, because schizophrenia is in the vernacular, if you call somebody a schizo, what you're saying is, oh, that person's crazy, or they have an inconsistent or warped perception of the world, or whatever. Whereas you come across to me as somebody who is absolutely sane and rational and coherent in what you say. So, like,
I am medicated.
well, okay.
There is that fact. Like I do take medication for this, so that yeah.
I mean, do you then say like that? You know, your sort of ability to speak about this, to speak to me, and then publish this in some form, is a part of again your motivation to do good, to do right.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I thought to myself, fuck, I'd probably get in trouble for having this conversation. I don't know. I don't know the logistics. I don't know whatever the fuck. I've got no idea. But here I am, and I think that also people might not know from our side what it felt like, and you know, to be us, healthcare workers at the
Yeah. Do you think that you represent a lot of whether it's nurses' assistants, nurses, or other people in the medical profession or industry? Do you think that you are representative of a significant proportion of people like that who sincerely meant to do good but were brainwashed in some way and have now seen the light, so to speak?
I'm not sure. I don't think I could speak on that for anyone else but myself. I, I like if I was being truthful, I would say I'm only speaking for myself. And
Well, good. And that's all we can ever do. Like, I suppose maybe the question should be, are you in contact with any other people who worked at the time that you did or are still in the profession? Um, or maybe they quit as well. I don't know. Do you know of any others who have changed their opinion like you have?
no, I don't. I don't have any contact with anyone from work since I left. I just stick to myself. I don't reach out to people. Um, so I don't. I never kept like I had friendships after like I finished in the COVID clinics and stuff that went on, but eventually I just dropped off. I didn't keep the contact up or anything. I wasn't. I don't. I'm not one to like sort of keep the contact going. I'm pretty reserved. So
Well, look, I mean, just to speak to the strength of character, for somebody to go from thinking at least that they were anxious or nervous, timid, whatever, not mentally strong, mentally stable, to having a clear focus and a strength of character to say, look, I'm going to speak out for better or for worse. I appreciate that and admire it.
yeah,
And I think it should be instructive to others that if people think that they don't have the strength of character to do what they know or feel is the right thing to do, I think this shows that everybody can do it if they want to do it. You know, if they feel that it's right to do it.
absolutely, 100%. Like I'm not afraid that anyone would know. That I have mental illnesses. I think it helps with the stigma when you talk about it. It somewhat helps against the stigma that people have against people like me. They, to do things like I've done with, the conditions that I have, I think pretty brave, a pretty brave person. But that's about as much as I'll say about myself.
As I often told myself, like, others might be able to praise you, but you have to take praise or compliments or flattery in the same way as you take criticism or people being nasty
Yeah.
and mean to you, because you have to kind of be able to brush them both off to have an equal chip on each shoulder, because you've gone from being somebody who might have been called a Nazi for being part of the medical profession. And now you're kind of on the other side where anybody who's skeptical of these things or critical of other things our government does, all of our governments do to us, or question it, now you have people calling you Nazis for that as well, don't you, online?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and look, I've been through a lot, so it's being called a Nazi is not really,
yeah.
it's not really that big of a thing.
Well, I'm really glad that because people can be very nasty, and also what I would say is the lesson I think is well a corollary of your experience so far is that you're going to be called a Nazi either way, so you might as well figure out what your principles are and stick to them because you can't please everyone.
No.
You're going to be criticised. People are going to call you names, and your government are still going to hate you. So you might as well be hated for the right reasons.
Oh, wow. You know, I'm surprised they haven't locked me up already. They like putting me in the psych ward. Um, well, if that's what happens, that's what happens. I mean, look, I mean, I don't really care anymore. I just don't. So
Well, look, and this is the thing. If people would realize that there's really nothing left to save, so there's no point in being afraid or cowardly about it. But look, as far as the medical profession and the people working in it, your boss, whoever it was he called the administrator?
yeah,
Can you tell me a little bit about him? And was he a kindly man? Was he good to you?
yeah. Oh, look, just receiving emails from me about what was going on. Literally, not long after I started writing to the executives about what was going on with the vaccines, and taking them, having to take them, and then as a mandate and stuff like that. I complained about that. Um, yeah, I wrote to the executives of the hospital literally for the nearly 3.5 years that I was there. So I wasn't afraid of writing to the executives of the hospital at all to voice my concerns, about everything. um,
And you spoke to him face to face, did you?
yeah, like he recognized me because on our emails we have little photos of ourselves. That's how he identified me. Come and said,
Oh yes, yes. In all corporate email, you have a little avatar, just like on X or on YouTube. You have an avatar of your face.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Was it some kind of staff meeting
No,
or
it was the end of like retirement thing.
oh, it was when he was being retired?
Yeah,
There was a sort of a party for him, was there?
yeah,
And was that on the hospital grounds?
yeah, yeah.
And when did he retire?
2023 maybe.
So, although you had corresponded with him through internal email, asking him about aspects of this whole operation, what are we doing, contradictions, that kind of thing, was this the first time you'd spoken to him face to face?
Yes, yeah.
And how did he come across to you?
Genuine, caring, like was asking how I was going in my new role. Whether it was, I was fitting in, and, how I was finding it and stuff like that. And that was it.
Well, look, and the reason I'm asking, right, is because, like, earlier on we touched on the sort of idea of culpability, and just in the legal system that there's, the idea that you have to have malice of forethought, a bad intent to start with, for something to be a crime or, in religious terms, a sin. And there's an excuse, I think, for people at a lower level of any hierarchy to say, I was just following orders, so I'm neither right nor wrong. And we heard this a lot with the medical profession, just following orders. But there comes a point at the chain of command of any corporation, such as a hospital or the government or whatever. Like, I wouldn't, like Dan Andrews, Scott Morrison, I don't care if they say I was just acting on the best advice or I did the best I could do. To me, that absolutely would not wash. If they felt that they were incapable of making the right decisions, they should not have been in the position they were, and they should have known that. That's what I expect of people. And equally, I expect of a hospital administrator. So he may have been a very nice man, but I'm also wanting to get to the idea of, could it also be possible that he knew very well what he was doing, but only cared about his retirement pension or something? Even if it was just that.
Yeah, I can't be sure. I can't speak on his behalf. I only know the interactions that I had, and that was mainly the whole time via email. Um, and the same with other executives as well. So I liked to let people know how I felt, what was going on.
Yes. So you were forthright with him. What did you say to him? Do you remember, either in your emails or when you were face to face with him?
I remember the first email I sent was about the mandated vaccines, but I can remember where I was standing and everything, but I can't remember exactly what I wrote, to be sure. And I have no access to those emails, of course, because I can't access anything like that, anymore. So
Yeah.
it was something about just being mandated, yeah. But I can't remember the body of the email. I can hardly remember anything about it. The second time, I think was when I was put on a medical certificate because I was experiencing burnout
Ah.
and stuff like that. So
And what response did you get from that?
I wish I knew because I don't have access to any of that anymore.
But do you remember, like, did you get a response at all?
Yes, yeah, I'm sure I did, and I'm sure it was along the lines of like, we hope you're going to be okay, blah 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 blah. Um, I think after I finished that certificate, I resigned from that position and just went back to the wards. So
Right. Maybe we skipped over too much now and we'll go back a little bit to 2021 when you were assisting nurses who were injecting people. They were in their masks and you'd go in and you'd call one line of people and you'd say, right, you guys come with me, bring you
yeah,
to a nurse now.
that was part of the hospital that had like reception, and then there was a room where everyone was seated while they were waiting to go through the vaccination clinic. Yeah.
And at this, was this around at the same time that you were feeling that you were suffering from burnout?
No, that was much later.
You were sometimes sent to different areas, anywhere where it was told to you at least that there was an outbreak here, there, or wherever.
I mean, they were all in the one state, all in Victoria, that we didn't go out of state. I think the longest drive was 4 hours away, or 5 hours away, maybe 4 or 5.
Okay, significant driving anyway. Was that stressful for you?
Um, I'm not really.
And how much notice were you given to say, ah, you have to go up here or there?
Not always very much notice. Yeah, not always very much notice, but enough time to sort of get someone organised to come and look after my pets and my house and stuff like that. So
So if there was a sudden outbreak,
yeah, we just would go and just get in the car and go, pack our bags, whatever, have our house organised and go.
oh, so you didn't travel on your own, like
No,
you
no,
were.
no, 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 no. A whole team.
Ah, I see. So you didn't have to do the driving. It was the hospital
I
team.
drove sometimes, but there was security. We had our own security. There was nurses, and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah,
So you turn up to the hospital with whatever you needed.
to the clinic with all of our bags, and then we'd all jump in the car and off we'd go.
Yeah.
Just arrive in the cars, and like there'd be like a line. You just walk up and down the line, getting information for the testing, and then there was the other side where the vaccination was happening in the building if anyone needed to be vaccinated.
And did they explain to you why you were traveling with security?
That was just always part of our. It was always part of it. I never really questioned it.
Yeah. But now does it seem unusual or strange why, people who are rushing to help people would need security?
No, I never really thought about it. It was just part of. I was just used to it because it was just part of it. Like, because we always had security at the hospital for, violent patients and stuff like that. So I guess it was just, you know, I didn't really even think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can understand actually in a hospital, unfortunately, I've seen over the last few decades as well, as our society has deteriorated, that people who present to accident and emergency are very often not just people who've fallen off a ladder and broken their leg, they might be people who are like regular patients who are suffering from chronic drug abuse and other things like this, who then have the strength of madmen.
Yeah. But there's people on the actual wards that are very unwell. They don't know, even dementia patients. I've been kicked by them, hit by them. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so, and then there's all different other reasons, and, that we would need security in a hospital. So,
Mm. So it seemed natural that they were traveling with
yeah,
you.
I wouldn't have even, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But look, it's another factor, an interesting kind of thing, how it sort of might change the perspective, quick rush with security to inject these people to save their lives kind of thing.
Yeah, well,
But in one of these, what would you call, like, I'll say field operations anyway, when you were going to, and maybe with your permission, there's a photograph that you sent to me
yeah,
of some of these vehicles lined up and you're there and they're on the grass, the Australian grass.
yeah.
And somebody, you told me, rolled down their window who was in the line of vehicles waiting,
Yeah.
and they said something to you. What was that? Or they shouted something at you?
Actually they were quite not they were quite pleasant. They just said, aren't you scared, doing this job at, catching the virus, and I just sort of said, no, we've got our PPE. It's my job. Like, I'm okay. And then after that, it really sort of, I think it was just like the last hurrah, like to be, because this person was very genuine. And, because you copped a lot of abuse and stuff like that in my position as well from people, all sorts of behaviors. And anyway, I just went and sat down, and it just was overwhelmed by, what I'd just been asked. Had a bit of a cry, and when that was my last deployment, actually. So, and that was up the top of Victoria somewhere. So,
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I can totally understand again that even though, we're coming to this from different perspectives, and at that time
yeah,
I thought, like, but again, it depends on what you see. But I thought, oh God, I was waiting for another psyop. I just didn't know it would be of the medical variety where they'd tell us that there was this terrible virus that was going to kill us, unless we took their so called vaccine. But I can totally understand not thinking about things that are so close to us, that have been with us for so long, or that they kept you so busy and distracted, like they did with everybody
they
all
did.
our lives. If you're not in school, and then if you're not studying something else, then you're working, and they keep you tired and busy. Most people busy with things of no consequence, but nonetheless, people aren't given the time or the opportunity to question things that are usually right in front of their face. Everything always hides in plain sight.
Yeah, well, even like the people that were coming through, they like looked me straight in the face and said, we're lambs to the slaughter, but they still went through with it.
Amazing.
Like, and so that's where I'm saying, for me, I don't know what went on. Like, for me, not no alarm bells. You know what I mean? Like, I've got people saying these things to me. Um,
How do you explain somebody saying to you, I'm a lamb to the slaughter, and yet continuing on the line towards the abattoir?
I've got no idea. That's just something that was said to me that I'll never forget.
I guess what it is, and I've thought about this for a while, I guess what it is it's the unconscious mind speaking involuntarily. They're not even hearing themselves.
Probably. So, but yeah, it was just these things. Like, I don't expect any sympathy from anyone. I don't expect anything actually at all. Really, I just think that um, not enough people have really spoken up about, all the stuff that people like me went through. But again, this it's personal. I'm not speaking for everyone,
Yeah,
because they might not have had the same experience as me. Do you know what I mean?
absolutely.
They may not have been so, because I'm quite a sensitive person. So they may not have been so, like, they may not still carry all this stuff that I can remember that affected me and still does. Like what I've seen. Like, I literally had an elderly woman, because they changed the AstraZeneca vaccine to no one under 60. Yeah. So they changed it again. No one under 60. So I had a elderly woman in the where they register on the computers, and like totally losing her mind. I'm not getting the AstraZeneca. I don't want to die. Um, I want the Pfizer. Like, I'm not getting that AstraZeneca. Blah blah blah. And it's just like, just standing there witnessing this. There's just things I just never will forget. um, and how the government caused the hysteria behind that. And sort of, it always, to me, feels like they were pushing the Pfizer, by causing this hysteria. Do you know what I mean? Away
Absolutely.
from the AstraZeneca. Whereas the early data on the AstraZeneca was 1 in a million chance. I don't know whether we can still find that, but I'm sure I took a screenshot, but I'll be stuffed if I can find it. There was like a 1 in a million chance that you would get a blood clot in the early data. But in the early data for the mRNA vaccine, which was the Pfizer, it was every 2 in 100,000 people that would maybe get the myocarditis. Is that how you pronounce it? Or the
Mm.
pericarditis? So there was more of a chance of catching, like, not catching, I suppose, contracting. And, that was all part of the informed consent. People were informed that these things were a possible side effect. It was
Hmm.
part of the informed consent. And
Well, do you know another phrase I remember now is the abundance of caution, right? That, these people care about our health so much that even a 2 in 100,000 chance they want to withdraw it, like to show us then how safe it must be, because people will kind of go, oh, yeah, well, that's still lottery winning odds. And they feel like, oh, well, if they're that cautious and withdrawing it for just that minor little chance, it would actually reassure so many people to say, oh, no, I'm definitely doing the right thing, probably. But again, so many contradictions here and there. And I think flooding us with all these data and numbers just serves to confuse people more and more. I think maybe so that if somebody just wants to say, look, I want to get on with things, get my life back, they'll say, listen, I don't care to hear this anymore. Just, inject me harder, basically. And no wonder then, I think a lot of these people would have felt that us, the refuseniks, right? The people who are the anti-vaxxers and all this kind of thing are just stubborn, stuck in the mud, and preventing us from getting back to the real life that we're promised.
yeah, I know you guys went through a lot. And with the, how would you say it? Like, the government was, like, we had people marching, doing marches and stuff, for over the lockdowns and all that sort of stuff, and they were getting a really hard time over here. I think I did tell you about that in the space that time. Um,
Well, just before, yeah, we started there, there's something kicking off in Australia right now, isn't there?
yeah,
Police beating up leftists. That's not something that's happening now, is it?
it actually did just happen today. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah, whatever that is, I don't know enough about it, but there's a lot of people on the right, myself included, who might even have a little bit of schadenfreude to sort of say, well, if the government was shooting Australians, so-called far-right anti-vaxxers, with microwave radiation for protesting in Adelaide or wherever else there in government buildings against the lockdowns, and the leftists or Antifa were the enemies of those people and said, no, no, obey the government or whatever. Well, there's a lot of people who are going to be saying, well, Antifa or the leftists, just about their turn now to get a beating from the police then, they're welcome to it.
No, I think that was absolutely disgusting on behalf of Victoria Police. I don't care who it was. I mean, it could have been anyone. But I don't support, what they were protesting for, or, their movements or whatever. But no one deserves that. It reminded me of COVID.
Certainly. I mean, I could see a couple of, moving frames and I got the idea.
Bang.
Yeah. And so what I want to say to you is that, of course, your attitude is correct. It's the mature attitude. It's along the lines of I may not agree with what they're saying or what they're protesting about, but I defend their right to protest, kind of thing. So it's very easy to fall into what they want, the government want us to do, the partisan, childish attitude where we say, "Ha ha! I'm glad the police are now kicking them." But of course, you're right. The police are wrong, and they shouldn't be doing this against their own citizens. And there's a comparison to be made, of course. I just sort of said this to you briefly, between the medical profession who are just doing their jobs for a paycheck and the police who are just doing their jobs for a paycheck.
Absolutely. I get the point. I get the point. But there's no need for brutality. They could simply have just grabbed them and arrested them, and put them on charges or whatever for hitting a police officer, but there was no need to lay into them with fists.
Yeah. Well, and again, I bet you there'll be a lot of police who will say, I didn't really think about what I was doing. I just went into auto mode.
That's like me. Like,
Yeah, I bet you a lot of police will probably say, listen, I didn't really think too much about it. There wasn't time to think. I just saw these guys. They were going to hit me, so I had to hit them first.
maybe.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying this to make you feel bad, but I do think that there's it's different. There's comparisons to be made, but I think the police, all of them, have had more than long enough to realise that they cannot be working for an entity with good intentions for its own citizens, and yet they are citizens themselves. And by the way, like everybody pretty much who has a job in anything in the modern world is ultimately working for the same system, which intends to do us all harm at the very least.
Yeah.
Anybody who they allow to keep alive, they're going to demand and enforce absolute obedience from every single one of us. And I expect everybody to look at the big picture, look at the long-term picture and the greater moral picture rather than, well, I need to keep my job. Like it's what everyone said during COVID. I had to take the injection because I had to keep my job.
Yeah. Well, I actually did. Like, I mean, I would lose my job if I didn't take it. Like, eventually when the date of the mandate came, I would have lost my job if I didn't take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I just thought,
Now,
I'll
and
just
this
do
is,
it.
I say this because, and, you know, I realize, and people have always called me like somebody who's unrealistic, a perfectionist, right? A perfectionist meaning that's a bad thing to be a perfectionist, right? And unrealistic. And people tell me, you have to live in the real world, John. Because what it means is that there's pretty much nothing that people will stand up for if it ever even threatens their career path that they thought they were going to have. People don't want to damage their even potential for promotion. And that's what they see as, I might lose my job, you know. And so that's what's really made me so sick about all my colleagues. And by the way, I haven't never worked in the police nor in the medical industry, although I did tell you briefly I did work in my own capacity for the UK Health Service. And I was told by them that every single penny has to end up as close to helping the patient as possible. Then I realised it was all a crock. This was back in the 90s. And it was really just a long-winded excuse to explain why I was paid such a pittance and why they tried to make my life so miserable by not giving me proper equipment or, you know, anything that I needed to do my job. Really, all these people were only concerned about their own payment, salary and pensions and promotion prospects. So I know it's never going to happen. I hope it would, though. There's still time for it. For every single person, and I don't mean to polemicize here, to really say, like, okay, if I expect others to make a sacrifice, why am I not willing to make a sacrifice myself? You have, by the way, I believe. You have. Because at some point after this person in the car rolled down the window and with nice intentions asked you, or at least in a nice way asked you, are you not afraid of catching COVID yourself? That did soon enough make you want to quit, didn't it? Or what other factors made you want to quit?
It was really hot that day. I was in like head to toe PPE, so I was struggling as it was, and I was sort of like, you know, just over the whole thing that day because I was so hot and dripping in sweat. And then this young person just asked me this question, and I just walked away, sat down, and just started crying. And I thought, you know, this is it. I can't do this anymore. Like, I just can't. I can't do on this front line, like right on the front line like that of the testing and the vaccinations and stuff. So I just come back. I was going to quit the whole thing, and I just spent some time at home for a couple of weeks and then returned to the hospital. So yeah.
And so you didn't quit then, but they redeployed you or moved you. What was the term for it?
So I was employed originally as a health service assistant. And then for the COVID clinics, I was employed as an administration support. And then for the last 10 months in the hospital, I worked in the psychiatric part as a lived experience worker. So I got employed 3 different times. But throughout the whole 3, I worked like some casual shifts as a nurse assistant throughout the other jobs as well. So that was sort of a continual thing.
That is amazing. Very glad I asked you that because, look, I think it speaks for itself that then this phrase or description, a person with lived experience helping others with psychiatric disorders, again, it shows, it's a testament to your character. And
Well, it's a little bit different than being approached by someone that doesn't have the same, hasn't had the same experiences, you know. So I could walk onto the psychiatric ward, sit down with the patients and say, hey, I, you know, used to be a patient here myself, and they would open up to me straight away and they could get off their chest what was going on, you know, in the ward for them. So on the ward, sorry, I should say.
yeah, no, not at all. And I think it's pretty obvious, and I think anybody who goes through any particular experiences that teaches them something, that you can't really know anything by reading a book or by somebody telling you about it. Yeah, it might help, but you can't really know it in your own soul or whatever is the interior of your mind or your consciousness. without having gone through something. So people's advice and that kind of thing are much more valid and easily accepted, I think, by the person if they know you've gone through similar suffering, let's call it, with the psychiatric disorder.
Absolutely.
But what made you then quit or want to leave?
At the time, there was a number of factors. I was working in as I said, as a lived experience worker in the psychiatric division. Um, my best friend died suddenly of cancer. Really close friend of mine. That sort of set me off a little bit. Um, I was also being what I class as bullied in that division, in that department, because of claiming that people were being racist and discriminating against people and so forth. No, this is true. And I spoke up.
Oh,
I
I can
spoke
believe you.
up.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I spoke up about it. So I was then, you
Can I
know,
just clarify those? And sorry to interrupt. Were you being called racist for?
no,
No.
no, no, no. Other people were being like discriminative about people in the industry, and so I've called them out on it, and then I become like a target from everywhere, like from every angle.
Can I just guess, and maybe because of the Australian thing is why I'm making the guess, were Aboriginals being discriminated against? Was
No,
that what it was? No.
no, 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 no.
Well, could
White
you
people.
maybe say, like, what was the nature of this racism? Was it your colleagues being.
Yep, they were being racist against white people.
Ah, and you called that out.
Yes, I did.
And that's why then they targeted you.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense in current year, all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so then I become like a target for everything. So there was like a multiple reasons that I resigned. So
So I think that does bring it full circle then.
yep.
You have, like myself, become a far right, racist, bigot, sexist Nazi.
Have I?
It's not so bad, is it? Everyone's terrified of becoming one, and then when you become one, you find it's nothing to this at all.
Nothing to it. I wouldn't
Yeah.
go that far, but if that's what you think, okay. I mean, I'll just.
You know that I'm saying. I think anybody could hear me if it's just my voice. You could hear that I'm saying it, obviously with laughter, but I'm saying it also with a serious intent. And it's like what I said earlier. They're going to hate you anyway, and so you might as well be hated for the right reasons. Stand up for what you believe, and not be afraid of all the names, all the labels they put on you. Just stand up for the truth. And also hold them to their own standards, because if these people who claim to be against racism would then turn around and discriminate, so-called, if discrimination is so bad against white people, they must be held to their own standards.
I don't think so, not in this day and age. But it's not the truth, it's my truth that I speak.
Oh, yes, well, I would call that your testimony.
Yeah. It's all like my experience. What I've like spoke of is
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think and I understand that. I would say for the avoidance of confusion, what we're not saying here is that the truth is just all relative depending on what you look at. No, no. There is objective truth that can be determined or agreed upon. Otherwise, we can't have a sane society. But what you've just told us now is your testimony from your lived experience, which is another thing.
basically, yeah, not all of it. I haven't shared all of it, I must say. There's too much,
Yeah,
um, to go into, but I will remember to send you a few things after we hang up here.
yeah. And look, if we put this out and people like it, I would appreciate being able to talk to you again, pick it up again, and you could tell us anything you've forgotten to mention, any questions people might have, of course, and no doubt there will be questions.
Probably.
And then maybe carry on with where we are from now and what's coming next, especially if whatever this is, whether it's Hantavirus, or however we say it, whether that's going to be much more familiar to us in the coming months and years, I don't know.
I don't know, but I'm very skeptical after the few. I'll send you that post as well. So
As well, you should be, and I'm glad you are. But look, Sab, I'm very glad and appreciative that you talked to me today.
no problem. I mean, look, regardless of the intention, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I told you what my intention is. It is for the truth, and also I think it's important to put your testimony, your truth, out there Because I do think that there might be something more to this world. As a non-religious person, very scientific, rational-minded person, there might be. If without flattering ourselves as a species, there might be some purpose to our existence here. And maybe it's to learn something, through long, painful lessons. And maybe we'll see some kind of justice, maybe not, I don't know. Maybe part of life's lessons is to learn to live with never seeing justice, but we still carry on and live the best lives we can anyway.
Yeah, that's the hard part, isn't it?
It is hard. It doesn't seem to get any easier, Sam.
Nah,
But look, I appreciate it again, and I hope we continue to talk, and maybe we'll do another recording at another stage.
no problem. Thanks, John.